Hello, give us a second while we get set up.
Hello, hello.
Alex, how are you?
Oh, I'm fine. Can you hear me well?
I can hear you perfectly. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, I do.
I do have a few birds flying around the trees in the background, so hopefully they're not
Are
too...
are are those kiwis?
The giveaway that they weren't Kiwis is that I said flying.
Yeah, I know, I know. It was a sort of a joke.
It was a good one. I'm laughing. Yeah, I don't know how I feel about that. The national bird not being able to fly, but it is what it is.
Could be worse.
Exactly.
Yeah. Uh, so we're going to have a sellout crowd today, and when I say sellout, it's because we have experienced a major sell off of Beam today following the Binance delisting, and we're going to talk about that.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, so let's kind of wait for a minute or two for more people to join and kind of outline what we're going to talk about. So obviously, we will start with talking about what happened with Binance again and making sure like everybody understands exactly what has happened and we all saw the end results in the short term. And then we are going to talk about what it means for the project in kind of the medium term and what our plans are in the a bit longer term, so covering the next, let's say, 6 months. We have some questions and some things that were raised in the community, not only related to the price, but also related to some features and other requests. So we're going to talk about those. And obviously, we are going to accept anyone who wants to express their opinions and ask questions as usual in every space that we're having. Yeah, so let's get started.
Perfect. Let's go.
Yeah. Okay, so before we accept any questions, I would like to once again go over the events of the last week or so and make sure that everybody is on the same page about the situation. So about a week ago, we have learned from the media, Twitter, and other sources that Binance is going to delist Beam, and it was closely following the delisting of one of the pairs, the BTC pair that we had. We had three pairs from the beginning on Binance: the BNB, the BTC, and the USDT. BNB was delisted a long time ago, and for a good reason. It was hardly active. But the BTC and the USD pairs were active for a long time. And first, they have removed the BTC pair, and then last week they have removed the final USDT pair, and they have announced it like on media. There was no formal or otherwise notification to the team prior to the announcement to the public. It caught us by surprise because only recently we talked to their account managers about integrating Ledger and other things. Never was it mentioned that the project is going to be delisted. Now, the way it was done was surprising, and there was like one kind of, in retrospect, like I was very naive about it because the way they did it is that they sent to everyone this kind of long list of reasons for possible delisting of the project. And this list of reasons included things like project not being active, not communicating with the community, not bringing value to the ecosystem. And one of those reasons, amongst all of those reasons, was also low volume, low trading volumes or something like that. And at first, I kind of chose to, oh yeah, like obviously we are active. Obviously, we have a lot of new developments. We are obviously very useful for the ecosystem. So it's clear for everyone that the only possible reasons for the listing was actually low volumes. But then I have realized that like only people who are actively following the project and are members of the community know that. But a lot of people who are just holding a coin on Binance and bought it a long time ago and are not listening to our spaces, are not reading our newsletters, they don't really know what happened. And for them it sounded like like one of the reasons was, yeah, we can delete the project if the CTO I don't know, tortures squirrels for fun. And then everybody's like, well, maybe it was low liquidity, but maybe he actually tortured squirrels, right? So I don't know. And that was definitely not the case. And this is the way they're doing it. And like we were asked, like people from the team asked, like why don't they provide a specific reason? And obviously they don't provide a specific reason for kind of legal and political limitations. They don't want to, kind of single out one specific reason, but for somebody who is not closely following the project, especially when it comes as a surprise from the Twitter without any prior communication from the team, it projects this very, bad and wrong impression as if the project, I don't know, have disappeared or something happened to it. And it's very important for me to kind of emphasize that there was absolutely no event related to the project that have kind of could have brought this delisting. There was no like change in our behavior. There was no change in the price of bean. There was no change in anything related to the project or the team. And it was completely like out of the blue for everyone, ourselves included. Now, we totally share the frustration of everyone because of obviously the delisting caused 30% price dump immediately, and then more kind of people selling that because they are trading on Binance, and if the project is not on Binance they cannot trade it anymore. They don't want to download the wallet to withdraw it, so they're just selling their coins. And we completely are not oblivious where we share those feelings. And it's especially frustrating to the team because right now our market cap is equal to the one of green, let's say. And after working for almost 5 years, in March it will be 5 years that we're working on this project and doing so much. It's very frustrating to see this project costing the same as the project who is kind of mostly inactive for a long time. But having said that, I just want to emphasize that, like I'm personally not going to, I don't know, feel bad for too long about this because from our perspective and from the perspective of our development, nothing really changes. And by the way, what was really kind of, I think, important for me to see like the support of our community members that are active and that are following the project. None of them even flinched, and people who are actually actively involved with what we're doing understand that it was a completely external event, which will, yes, has a short-term implications on the price, but have absolutely no applications on what we're doing, how we're doing, and what we're continuing to do in the future.
Exactly. I want to emphasize, like, you mentioned that the development will continue, and like there is a lot that is coming out in the short term, in the medium term, and then also in the long term. Like there's a lot of things that have kind of been gearing up for launch, and they will be kicking off fairly shortly, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, and before we talk about that, we have a request from someone, and probably more people want to express their opinions. So let's take a few questions and
Perfect. Ashutosh Maoye have accepted your request. You may need to unmute yourself, Ashutosh, if you're there.
no,
Oh, okay.
yeah, he's muted right now. Okay. In the meantime, anyone else has any questions or notes? Okay.
No problem. If you do at any time during the space, just throw the request up and we will bring you up.
Yeah.
Oh,
Okay. So we have a.
Master Quest.
If it's about the name of scam, we're changing it. We're changing it. It's not going to be called
Yeah,
scam.
we saw the feedback, and honestly, brought it up earlier in the team, and we're gonna look at new names and directions for that.
Go ahead, though.
Okay, I got some stuff to say. Um, the communication between the team and the community has to become much better. People can't reach anyone from the team on Discord or on the Beam forum. It's hurting people that trust in the project a lot. Just Telegram isn't enough. Telegram is also extremely bad for privacy.
Yes, I totally agree. And indeed, most of the team is only on Telegram, not on Discord, and hardly on the forum, except for like kind of specific overviews that I do every once in a while. And for that reason, we're going to add community manager, at least one, and we are going to man the Discord more. I totally agree with the remark, especially about news and announcements. And yeah, like it just so happened historically that Telegram is our kind of main channel of communication, but I totally agree that it's not the best privacy messenger out there for sure. And we will do everything we can to be on Discord as well, like me personally and other team members, both for support and also for listening to and responding to opinions and notes.
Absolutely. And I also want to jump in and actually apologize because the Discord Rascal was over there managing, and I kind of chilled out and didn't spend so much time in Discord. Now with Rascal on a extended hiatus, I will need to get back in there and keep everyone updated.
Will be done. Um, okay, so let's talk about a little bit of like where the situation, the current situation puts us. What like will happen? What like what we already talked about, and what changes will be made, like if any, like about our like short-term plans. So a couple of things. Uh, like we will definitely try to invest more in marketing and PR in terms of like being more active on Twitter. That was also one of the remarks that we got, and I totally agree. And we will try to push our message through and like using as many channels as possible. And by the way, in this, I would really appreciate your help in terms of if you see any kind of discussion going anywhere in Twitter or anywhere else that you think can be related to the goals of this project, privacy, blockchain technology, crypto, etc., and where we should participate, please let us know like as quickly as possible so we can jump on this and kind of push our message further. Uh, and obviously we will do the same. So this is kind of the first part. Um, in terms of the short term, kind of next couple of weeks, as you know, we have been working for a long time on the bridges and the decks. Both of them are ready, and they will be like they already are in. Bridges are in the rollout stage, and the decks is only waiting for some cosmetics and UI fixes. It's functionally ready. So both of them will be released, I hope next week, two at the most, but they will be there. Now, in terms of the bridges, we have started like with bridges that bring liquidity into Beam, but it could be also beneficial to have bridges that actually wrap Beam to be tradable on Ethereum in any kind of AMM swaps that you have there. So we're going to do that as well. So it will be possible to take your Beam, lock them on Beam, and then trade them on Ethereum. It might bring more traffic. Obviously, you lose confidentiality, which brings me to this point that, uh, like, you know what? I'll talk about it separately about the privacy and the current situation with it in the market. Another thing that is going to be ready very soon, it's actually already active on .NET right now. It still has some quirks that need to be ironed out, but it's almost there, is the scam, which is secure confidential asset minter. And yeah, we're going to change the name. It was funny at the time, like it was funny at 11 cents. At 5 cents, it's not already funny. So we're going to change the name. But the point of this application is that you will be able to mint confidential assets with limited supply fixed by a smart contract, so that you will no longer rely on any specific wallet to control the amount of the asset that you're minting. I think it will be very useful for all kinds of community projects to have this kind of fixed and limited supply validated by a smart contract. So these applications are on the short list and will be released as soon as possible. Any questions about that? Okay. So, yeah.
I have, sorry, I have one small question about that. With the asset minter, which I'm now going to refer to it as, they will have all of the same structure, like a standard structure, and owned by a smart contract, have a capped supply, and the people creating it will be able to set the supply. Is that right?
Yes. So the way the minter works is that you create an asset using the same parameters that are allowed when you're creating an asset using the CLI wallet, which is all of the kind of mandatory fields that include the long name, the short name, the ticker, and obviously the name of the smallest unit of your asset and how many are there. So by default, you can create an asset which has 10 in the eighth, like 100 million millionth of a unit, but you can change that and you can create assets that are either smaller or larger in terms of like how divisible they are. And also you can add all of the optional parameters, which include the link to your white paper, link to your website if you have one, the longer description, and etc. And you will also provide the amount of tokens you want to have as a limit. And then these tokens will be minted in the contract. And the contract will ensure that like no additional amount of these tokens above the limit that you have set will be minted. Now, there was a question right now in the community about whether this will include the assets that were already minted by wallets. So no, it will not be possible to kind of move the assets into the contract at this stage, because once you have created an asset with the wallet, you can always mint more, right? So what will be done in this case, I think the best way to handle this is to convert the asset. So let's say you have a project with an already existing asset, which was created by the wallet. You will just inform all of your community members that like we will provide a way to do this so that you can create a new asset and then basically gather all of the assets, all assets like which will be defunct from this point, and mint a new limited amount of new assets instead. And then everybody will know that the old asset is no longer active and the new one replaces it with a limited cap. I think that's the only way to do it right now.
So in a sense, like migrate to a new token that has a capped supply, right?
Yes. Cool. Yes. Unfortunately, yeah. So the reason it works like that is because like when the original confidential assets were created, we didn't even have smart contracts. It was back in like over 2 years ago. And that was the only way to create a new CA, like using the wallet. But since we have added smart contracts, so for example, BMax has a limited cap supply and it was issued by smart contract. And now anyone can have the same functionality using this new asset minter that we'll provide.
Perfect.
Yeah. Okay, so this is kind of the immediate things that are going to be rolled out, and we will do our best to inform the public about it. We will do some PR. We will try to get the message out there. Now, in addition to that, we will finalize and release the desktop wallet, the new version, which, as you know, includes support for the Ledger Nano S and Ledger Nano S Plus hardware wallets. It will also require a small cosmetic change to the way that the addresses are represented. And I will explain what it means in a few words. Within the address as we have it today, there are several parts. Like, as you know, like most of you are aware of the SBBS address, which is actually how the wallets communicate between themselves. SBBS allows wallets to send messages from like encrypted messages from one another. And we use it for many different applications. We use it for asset swaps, atomic swaps, and we also use it for regular transactions. So this is like the one part. However, the second part is something that some of you may remember as the wallet ID. It was not a very good name, so we're changing it. We're still kind of trying to find a good word to describe it. So right now, people are suggesting in the team association they call it an endpoint, but the idea is the same. It's actually the key of the actual receiver. So, for example, when you are using a hardware wallet and you want to validate that the person who signed your transaction is actually the person that you intended to, this is exactly the parameter that you check. Like in Bitcoin, it's just the address, but since we have kind of two different parts to the address, the part of the actual recipient of the funds and the kind of mechanism by which these messages are sent, so that there are two separate parts. But you want to make sure that you are actually approving a transaction to the person that you intend to, because if your host is compromised, which is the whole reason for using hardware wallets, you want to make sure it didn't tamper with the end recipient of the transaction. So we will change the names a little bit and make it kind of try to make it clearer exactly what you need to verify on your hardware wallet before you approve the transaction. Obviously, our transactions also include vouchers for offline, like Lilantos-based transactions. So this part will also remain the same. And all types of transactions will be supported by the hardware wallet, which is very important. Vladi did an amazing job on that. It was not very easy to achieve, especially on the older and smaller in terms of memory and processing power Ledger Nano S, but he managed to squeeze all of that in. So all of the transaction types will be supported.
That's great. Like an incredible job that Vladi's done getting that up to speed and optimizing it for the different different performance levels of the ledgers.
Yeah, it was a very complicated undertaking, and I'm really glad he managed to do it. So the new version of the wallet on the desktop wallet will also include this kind of first version of the messaging app that it's more kind of a demo version, I would say, something to play with. But it does illustrate some interesting points about how Beam can be used and all kinds of interesting applications and integrations that we can do in the future. But I will talk more about that in a minute. So the next thing that was already announced is the EVM integration. The EVM integration is a major, like it's a really big deal, because what it means is that in addition to running Beam native smart contracts that use BVM, Beam Virtual Machine, and are implemented in C++ and are kind of more complicated to implement and to learn. The learning curve is very steep there. It will also allow running contracts that are written in Solidity. And I think it will make it much easier to both create new contracts and also port existing contracts from Ethereum or other EVM-based chains to Beam. I think it will greatly increase our kind of possibilities in terms of running different applications on Beam. Additional thing that we did talk about a while ago, but is coming back into picture in a big way right now, is the use of MetaMask to work with Beam. Let me kind of explain why it's such a big deal. So one of the core kind of things for Beam was always to provide the maximum privacy possible, right? And that's why we have like everything in Beam is custom. We have our custom wallets, we have our custom mechanisms that connect those wallets to the chain. As you know, our applications are completely decentralized. They don't use websites. They run inside the wallet. They can be distributed using decentralized App Store. They can be packaged and completely localized in terms of like not needing any web server to run. However, in many cases, we see this today in the ecosystem more and more. The term privacy is becoming a little bit more kind of, I would say, cheapened in a way, right? So like, let's take, for example, ZK rollups. ZK rollups, like most of the projects that deal with them, they use the word privacy somewhere. However, this is a very different kind of privacy from what we intend to provide as B. Because in ZK rollups, the privacy is for people outside the company that actually rolls up, and the sequencers that create those rollups, because the sequencer does see the transactions, and hence, I don't know, the government or the authorities or anyone can actually, approach this company and get this information. But it's still considered private at some perspective. Now, we don't want at any point to reduce the amount of privacy that BIM provides. Right now, and I say this with complete confidence, BIM is the top privacy coin, like regardless of the price. In terms of the technology, anonymity set, ease of use, the quality of the protocols inside, there is absolutely like second to none in terms of the privacy that BIM allows. And for those who heard about Mimblewimble back in 2019, BIM today is a completely different animal. It's not, even comparable to Green or any other, or I don't know, Mimblewimble extension blocks, because it uses the combination of not just Mimblewimble but also Lilantos, something that we call Lilantos Mimblewimble, and it does fix all of those issues that were like in original Mimblewimble. We do have additional protocols in play to obfuscate the traffic between the nodes, so it's not simple, or like it's not possible to trace the origin of the transactions in terms of the IP. So we did a lot of work on that front. However, in some applications, this high level of privacy is not necessarily required. And we do want, without kind of limiting or without hurting the privacy that we provide as BIM, to be able to cater to those projects and allow them to run on top of BIM. So what this means in practicality is that we can use kind of mechanisms that people are accustomed to. MetaMask is being one of the kind of more popular wallets out there. Now, MetaMask is centralized. MetaMask uses Infura behind the scenes. It connects to basically a web service that provides all the information, right? It does store the keys encrypted locally on your machine, but it relies on a standard web service for all of the rest, for the information about the blockchain state, for sending transactions. It all happens in a completely centralized way. Now, before we have added smart contracts, it was not possible to use these kinds of wallets at all. But now that we do have smart contracts, we can actually emulate a lot of the Ethereum-like features on BIM. And yes, it doesn't add privacy. It's actually worse for privacy. But it could be better in terms of usability and allowing more interesting applications for BIM. So back in the day, I think it was like, I don't know, almost a year ago, maybe a bit less, we have created a demo of using MetaMask to send transactions on Beam. And the way it worked, it was like a very kind of a hacky proof of concept thing. It connected to a locally running API node, right? You can create, like you can download the API node, the same one that exchanges and the other services use for integrating with Beam, and you can run it locally on your machine. And then what we have done, we have tricked MetaMask to connecting to this locally running service. And we have implemented a scene kind of adapter layer that converted standard MetaMask API requests to Beam transactions. Now, what we're thinking about doing now is to taking this existing POC and making it into a full-fledged service. So we will basically implement something similar to Infura on Ethereum for Beam. So you will have a centralized web service. The keys will still be, stored. It's going to be a regular MetaMask experience from the user side of the story. But it will allow you to interact with smart contracts on Beam, which will kind of emulate Ethereum behavior, right? So we have this transition from UTXO-based to account-based model in the contract. So you will have the ability to move funds, to send transactions, and interact with contracts. And I think it will also increase, for some applications, it will increase the usability, like, and kind of how easy it is to approach Beam for people who are not used to, running the native Beam wallet.
So this would like open. I mean, as far as I know, like MetaMask is one of the most common and popular wallets for mainly for Ethereum, but also for a lot of chains that are using EVM and this kind of thing. And this would open up like the door to people getting their like dipping their toes in, so to speak, with Beam and with the MetaMask wallet. Is this correct?
Yeah, I believe it will make it much easier for people who are new to Beam to use Beam applications, even without initially taking the full advantage of the privacy that we provide. Uh, but then it will be kind of their choice whether they want to become more private, and then they will just download our wallet and use exactly the same application in a much more private way, or just continue using MetaMask. Because as we know, privacy is, not does not have the same importance for everyone, but it will greatly increase the potential audience for the Beam applications. That's my opinion.
Okay.
Now, one of the things that was actually mentioned recently in the Prism community, and this is something that we also talk about quite a lot, is our ability to use SBBS for all kinds of applications that actually, I would say, require like more speed in terms of like the message distribution, time, because SBBS is much faster than regular Beam transactions, obviously, and it's very flexible and versatile in how it can be used, right? So today we use it for wallet-to-wallet communication, as I mentioned, and also using the broadcast functionality to create orders on asset swap and atomic swap applications. But it can be extended to be used for decentralized social, decentralized like applications of many, many different kinds. And obviously, we cannot implement all of that at once. So we do need to kind of find a good opportunity and a good idea, like where this can actually be applied with maximum effect and maximum engagement from the users to create the most value that we can for the development time and cost that we expend. Another interesting thing that we can do with SBBS is actually layer two applications. And this is something I would like to talk about a little bit more in depth because I do want active input from the community about this idea. It's something that we didn't discuss before, and I would like to know what you think about it. But as you know, layer two projects today, so it's a term that was once used for like things like lightning networks. Today, I don't know, Polygon is somewhat like layer two or sidechain. I don't know. Rollups are considered layer two. So layer two is describing all these things that are not on layer one, but rather are implemented around and outside the blockchain. Now, let me give you an example of how this can be used. So let's say you want to create a new blockchain. Like, there are projects out there that provide this kind of building blocks, right? Constructor for blockchains. Cosmos is one of them. Um, but let's say you don't want all this hassle. You just want to implement a blockchain with kind of, just drag and drop or, select a few parameters and you have a blockchain. This is something we can actually do relatively easy with SBBS because what we can do is to create an application. And as you know, in Beam, it's not just a contract that is on chain like in Ethereum, but there is also a part of the smart contract that's running inside the wallet. And it actually implements the logic of how the application queries the contract that's running on chain and what it does with this information. So using SBBS, we can create this kind of, let's say, simple PBFT, right? Blockchain. PBFT stands for Practical Byzantine Fault Tolerance. It's a relatively simple consensus, which is permissioned. So you define which nodes are validators in your chain, and then you require that at least 2/3 of those nodes are honest for the blockchain to be functional. And this information is actually stored on chain in the contract, but once the messages are sent, they include the transaction information, and this information can be used by this application running inside the wallet. And this wallet kind of becomes a node of itself, right? It's a wallet for Beam, but it is a node for this new blockchain that we just created. What will be the properties of this blockchain? So first of all, obviously, it will be much faster than Beam Layer 1, right? You will be able to send transactions in much greater pace, and PBFT consensus is much faster in processing those transactions. So this information will be stored in those nodes that you define as validator nodes, and it can also be periodically synchronized as checkpoints into the layer 1 of, let's say, Beam. And this is similar to how Polygon works, right? And then on top of that, you will be able to access any application, because these applications are also, like, at least from the standpoint of their business logic, right? They can be implemented in the same framework. So you will have this kind of, I call it private virtual blockchain, PVB, right? Just for fun. A small blockchain, which is a layer 2 on Beam, does have a lot of privacy, and it can be integrated with many like existing applications, and thus provide kind of new layer of functionalities, layer 2 on top of Beam.
So this would be like, excuse my technical prowess or lack thereof, but this would be kind of similar to like Substrate with Polkadot, and how Cosmos makes it kind of easy to spin up like a blockchain. Is that right?
Well, not exactly. I will explain briefly, and then I see Dr. Oski wants to say something about all that. So the difference between Polkadot and Cosmos is that they have more kind of flexibility in their building blocks, but you do need to assemble all of that yourself, right? So you take these building blocks that they provide, and then you need to code all the logic that actually implements what is it you want your blockchain to be or to do.
Okay.
In this case, yeah, we're talking about something a little bit simpler, but it will be applicable, for example, for situations where you have, let's say you have several organizations that want to trade very quickly, right? Or a pool, like AMM pool that wants to provide like very fast and private trading. So the point is that your on-ramp, let's say, goes through a bridge, right? You want, like, you have a liquidity on Ethereum, you bring it in through a bridge, and then the trading is only within your private virtual blockchain. So the benefit here from the perspective of the operators of said blockchain is that you are private, but you have the same kind of level of privacy as the rollups, right? Which is okay because somebody provides the on ramp, they can provide KYC, they can provide whatever you want, but the fees from all that they leak into Beam. So you only pay fees to Beam Network, but there are no kind of Beam or any other CA that you don't want to kind of going inside the network, so you can provide any level of privacy you want, and also provide any level of regulation or KYC that you want. That's kind of the idea.
Okay, nice.
Yeah, let's let Dr. Oski say.
Hey, how's it going?
Hey.
I like everything I hear so far. The only thing, maybe I'm kind of rushing the guns, but have you guys thought of any utility for BeamX? I think it's very important to create some sort of utility and value within the community where Beam holders kind of like, see value first within BeamX. You know what I mean? It's not just some, massively printed token, right? So was there any kind of like discussion or any plans to implement any sort of utility? Because I think a lot of stuff that's getting released, like the Messenger or the Dex, all the other stuff, the minting app, all of that, I think it's there's a great way to implement it somehow, some way, like beyond just voting. I think that would
Yeah,
give it, because we need to generate some
yeah.
kind of value within the community first, I think.
No, totally. There actually was a discussion about it because, like, it's not a new discussion, but during the last space, I think we also kind of talked about it, and I was a little bit fuzzy because, like, there were a lot of plans, and we wanted to specify exactly what will be the practical next steps. So the first thing that we are going to do is, and it's going to be relevant both for DEX and all other applications that generate value. Probably not going to be applicable to Asset Minter, most likely, but it definitely is going to be applicable to all applications that require liquidity. So BMX will be, first of all, a yield token for all liquidity provision. DEX is like one great example. The Nifrit stable, when it's out, will also going to be using BMX as a yield token when you put your stable coins in the stability pool. You will generate yield in BMX. So BMX will be always a primary yield token for all applications that are integrated within the BMX DAO ecosystem, which is currently all of them. So yeah, like the Messenger currently is just a game, but if you do have any financial transactions within this ecosystem, BMX is the only and the primary token for all profit generation.
Like, I think it would be interesting to offer
sharing.
like free messaging app, but if you do any kind of extra features that are like premium, you can sign up, but you can only pay in BMX or whatnot. Just an example or something like that. But it would be very interesting to kind of see some sort of a value derived from the token itself and see it grow within the community before anyone else even starts eyeing it. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. Now, all the profits that's generated in either the way of fees or premium features, as you said, like whenever you go through a smart contract on Beam, and you have a mechanism that generates fees, these fees go to only one place, which is the DAO vault, and from there they're distributed between BMX holders and any application that requires liquidity. By the way, the bridges, at least at first, will not require liquidity, but at some point they might. Like you do want to be able, for example, to not exactly stake, but provide liquidity for the bridge, and then like get yield from that. So all of these mechanisms are only going to be using BMX. Yeah, so we definitely have not have plans, but like, that's definitely what we're doing. The only problem until now was that there were just not enough of these applications, but that's going to change quickly.
Yeah, that's all I really
So we're with you on that. Yeah.
Cool. Thank you.
By the way, one of the questions that we also wanted to ask your opinion about is like whether it might be beneficial to wrap BMX as a ERC20 token to be tradable on Ethereum pools as well. And I think it should be there, like maybe even more than B. So yeah, we talked about that as well last time. And this is one of the things that we are going to do.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's you mentioned that you still are planning to wrap Beam, which like I'm not against that at all. Like, I mean, it's cool. That's why I did ask. Like, I was wondering if there was wrapped Monero. I never really looked into it, but yeah, I mean, I don't think it would hurt Beam at all. But I think Beam X should be the utility token advertised to kind of generate even more value to it. And if one has to buy a Beam X, they have to use Beam to even send BeamX right on the Beam chain. So
yes,
so either way, it's kind of a win-win for the Beam ecosystem.
Definitely. Yeah, we have a request from Jackie.
Hey, good afternoon, everybody. So I've been in your project for a while now, and Yeah, it's unfortunate the Binance situation. Just I guess for pricing and for 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 market discovery. It's always good to be listed on a major exchange. We don't need to talk about that, but I'm listening to this call and I think it's pretty interesting because we make a lot of references to the past, to what's going on. But I have some questions. I think I know most of those answers, but I still think they might sound quite basic to the audience. But I think it's important that everybody, including myself, understand a bit more of what's the purpose of Beam and what's your vision going forward. I think from a PR perspective, the Binance thing, nobody knows what happened. I'm thinking it's because the privacy tokens are getting a beat up right now. So I think the fact that you're considered a privacy token, which you are, maybe Binance is saying, we're going to start removing ourselves from just being involved with the privacy token. We saw what happens to, Torn blockchain, and we see what's happening with Void Cash, and we see what's happening with a bunch of these players. So forth. So my questions are the following. When it comes to your token or your coin, I should say, um, is there any ways to make it deflationary in the future with some sort of smart contracts? I have like 5 questions, so it's you don't have to go into great details. It's just basic questions.
Yeah, of course. Okay, so let's separate it into kind of two parts that I will really answer briefly because like any conversation can always be extended either online or in future spaces. So the main purpose of the project in general is to provide the best possible level of privacy for all kind of types of applications for the blockchain. We started with basic value transfer, competing in terms of functionality with Monero and Zcash. And then when the DeFi came, we have also added the ability to run applications with the same level of complexity as you can run on any other blockchain, including Ethereum, in terms of like having Turing complete smart contracts, but still having your privacy, at least in terms of your identity and the inability to trace your transactions. Now, in terms of the emission model, so it was a kind of early, like when we have launched our coin, we have decided on a uh, capped supply of 262,800 million, I'm sorry, 800,000 beam, which is implemented through periodic halving. The next halving is actually in the end of this year, beginning of next year. Um, and we have so far, and I don't see this changing in the foreseeable future, refused to make any changes to this basic kind of agreement that we have with the investors and the community about the emission schedule and the emission model. Having said that, so we like it is a capped supply. It's not like green, which means I don't know 60 green every minute. It does have a cap. Um, Having said that, now that we have all of these additional functionalities, it is possible to create additional assets with any emission, model that you would like, and then have all kinds of applications that allow you to trade them for Beam. So you do have this flexibility as well.
Okay. So again, smart contracts was obviously very interesting. When it comes to Monero, which is definitely the leader in the layer one proof of work privacy coins, um, I don't want to get into big marketing deals, but what makes Beam a superior, more scalable coin for the future? Is it your blocks your speed for blocks per seconds? Is it your system? Like, can you give us like just a basic Twitter
Yeah,
non-technical pitch versus
yeah,
Monero?
yeah. So I would say it's three things. The first one being anonymity set. Monero, first of all, I have a like a lot of respect for Monero. If I wasn't like using Beam, I would use Monero as a privacy coin. But so Monero uses a combination of several technologies in order to implement privacy. It's basically ring signatures and shielded addresses, the kind of top two. And the ring signatures, they have an anonymity set of 11, which means that whenever you receive a transaction, there are 11 signatures, only one of which is real, and the other ones are called decoys. and this gives you an anonymity set of 11. Now, Beam has a combination of two protocols, Mimblewimble and Lilantus. And in terms of the anonymity set, which is, let's say, theoretically achievable with Lilantus, it goes up to 64,000. Not 11, but 64,000. Now, obviously, it's not always practical to achieve because it means that you put your coins into a shielded pool and you wait for long enough time for this anonymity set to be accumulated. But this is a theoretical maximum that we can get. So I would say that practically we have a better privacy than Monero. So that's the first thing. The second thing is obviously programmability today, your ability to create applications on top of Beam, which you cannot do with Monero. You cannot create confidential assets with Monero, which in Beam are exactly as confidential as Beam itself, which is, I think, great. And they're not smart contracts, they're layer one implementation. So this is the second thing. And the third one, I would say usability in terms of like you have, you know, yeah, you have wallets, like great wallets for Monero as well. It's a Bitcoin fork. But in terms of like being able to implement different kinds of functionalities, I think Beam is much um, better suited for that. Right? It's much more difficult to extend Monero, just like it's much more difficult to extend Bitcoin. So that I would say are the three things that make us better than Monero.
Okay, I appreciate it. And the last thing I wanted to ask you was, um, you know, I don't, I'm more on the investor side of the crypto blockchain community. I don't build, I don't create, I just invest and you know, and put money into different projects and so forth. So, um, I I see some value in the Beam X token, meaning the DAO treasury. I think it would be brilliant, and it's just an opinion, but I would be really excited. I think it'd be different and it'd be brilliant to really run heavy with the DAO structure behind a privacy token, where money could be vested into some sort of DeFi protocols, maybe inside your DEX and so forth, where they would be, uh, where the funds would be managed by a DAO, but also it would be 100% private, which would allow people that have accumulated substantial amounts of valuable bitcoins and ethers over the years and want to put this money to work on DeFi protocols, but want to do it in a way where there's privacy involved, A, and also B, where there's a DAO controlling the smart contract, preventing any theft from happening, which we've seen in so many projects. So I think you guys are really close at building all these different things and these different elements that can come together. When I look at the website, and this is just constructive feedback, one of the points as an investor where I look back and say, "Well, I wish there wasn't so many things on the website," is I just feel like it's difficult to do so many wonderful things well, and I'm always more looking for singular solutions. So we're building, for example, a a DeFi protocol that we're going to be using our DEX, and it's privacy, blah, blah, blah. Then when I'm looking at the website and I see atomic swaps, I see privacy by default, like I see smart contracts, I see everything in different bubbles, but I don't see one ultimate product, if you want to know what I mean, you know? I think obviously you guys will get there, but it's
Yeah.
always exciting when we see one product and then the background of the product could be a number of these different pillars you guys are building, right? That manages that one product. That's just my feedback, guys. But otherwise, great job. Thank you for taking the time to answer my question. I appreciate
Yeah,
it.
first of all, sure. Thank you very much for expressing your opinion. It would be great to continue conversation in Twitter, Telegram, or anywhere because your feedback is really valuable. So let me say two things about that. First of all, in terms of the governance structure, yeah, like Beam went through like is going through the third of three different stages of governance. We started as a company, and then we moved to Beam Foundation, and now we are in the process of moving from Beam Foundation to a DAO, and it's a slow process. But yeah, we do intend to get there eventually, but it will take some time. But yes, this is completely the idea to have BMX as a key token for all kind of governance and other, decision making processes, bounty allocation, feature requests, and all that. it does require attention from us that we do not always like have to full extent, but that's exactly the plan. Now, in terms of being focused on one thing, we completely suck at that. Yeah, we build a lot of different things, and some of them work better than others. Atomic swap, in my opinion, is a great example of an amazing feature that nobody uses. And one of the problems that we have always had is kind of this finding, this kind of product market fit in terms of like what is really needed, and we're still not there, right? Because if we were there, we would see that there is like actual real use case that is definitely working like no matter what. Right now, we don't have that. We have a lot of infrastructure, but on the other hand, the good news here is that we did build a lot of infrastructure and it's very flexible. And now the purpose of our kind of project this year, 2023, is to use all of the things that build and find the best possible kind of combination of different features, how we can apply them to, I would say, bring more kind of specific use cases for Beam as well. Like for example, Monero, they have a great adoption because back in the day, way before Beam existed, they solved this issue and they positioned themselves as, you know, yeah, I know I can't program, I can create smart contracts. I don't care. What I can do is take my money and make it private and send it from point A to point B. So this is exactly this kind of focus that you're talking about that they have, and they have a great kind of adoption and resiliency in solving this specific problem. While Beam is actually, yeah, doing a lot more things, but none of them is as clear cut as this Monero product offering.
Yeah,
So
exactly.
yeah, I totally agree.
Yeah, and I mean, I don't think it's a problem if it all comes together. If it all comes together, it's brilliant. And I think you guys have built all these great products that can come together and create something so unique. And just to finish off, I mean, if the Dex comes out and you guys are able to wrap some Caspas, for example, because Caspa is doing great as a layer one silver token to take over Litecoin, but it's not gonna get listed on Binance tomorrow morning because everybody wants to keep feeding Litecoin. There's a lot of politics involved, right, with these big markets. So Caspa is a perfect example where you wrap some Caspas into your DEX and you guys figure out how to way to work with these great future coins that are going to be taking over the top 50. Caspa is going to take over Litecoin eventually, maybe in the next 10 years or so. But if you guys start positioning yourself to work with these early projects that are going to have a hard time getting listed on the major exchanges, and you can do so behind your privacy coins, I think it's a brilliant move. And you guys know those people very well. So, anyways, I got to jump, but thank you so much, guys. Be well.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Yeah, definitely great ideas there. Okay, we'll think about that. So anyone else wants to say something short before my kind of concluding words of constructive optimism at the end of this day?
No, I think everything was good.
Yeah.
The whole DAO, I think some of the stuff he said, I don't know, but the whole DAO point was kind of interesting about emphasize on the DAO, make about the DAO, because you already have the ecosystem, and just run on that.
Totally, yeah, that's totally true. One of the things that we like kind of thought about is to I don't know, becoming like, for example, one of the problems with existing DAO infrastructures is that you cannot vote privately, so everybody sees what you're voting for, what you're voting against. It definitely can be another potential to use Beam privacy for that, in addition to Beam's own DAO. Okay, so listen, just to kind of conclude this space, really like in a few sentences. Yeah, sure. Who is that?
The Beam spaces haven't appeared on YouTube lately.
Really? Not good.
Yeah.
I will ask why. It's been uploaded by our Africa community members, but yeah, it should be there.
I think one of the recent ones was not updated because the guy in charge of turning the recording on, aka me, forgot to switch it on. But this one will be updated, and I'll check on any others that need uploading as well.
Yeah,
All right.
the recent one wasn't. Okay, so just to summarize, first of all, in terms of like not a trading advice in any way, and we never talk about prices, and we never talk about price projections for sure. But I think what is happening right now is a overreaction to an event which is unfortunate and unforeseen and unpredictable, but yet does not change absolutely anything about our current status as a project, about our plans moving forward, neither in the short nor in the long term. So one of the things, and this is kind of the second thing I would like to say, is to express many, many thanks to all of our active community members that expressed a lot of support in these kind of very unfortunate events and understood exactly what we're doing, what we stand for. And we are very thankful, and it's very important for us as a team and for the project to have such great members in our community. So this is amazing. The third and the last thing, we do have a lot of technical expertise and infrastructure in the space. It's really almost like no area of blockchain development, including, I don't know, NFTs and smart contracts that we didn't touch in this project. So we have a lot of interesting capabilities. And let's continue together to look for good applications for our technology in addition to the existing ones that we have, and obviously try to spread the word about that and find this opportunity to use what we've built, continue supporting privacy, and find our way to succeed both financially and technologically, and continue our effort as we did for the last 5 years. Yeah, so that's it. And thank you very much for being here with us. We'll see you next week. Regardless, I don't know where Binance will be. I know where I will be. I'll be here. Yeah.
Thanks a lot. See you.
Thanks a lot.
Thanks all.
See you.
See you.
Bye bye.